Hello and welcome to Phillips Mill Community Association's Art Talk. I'm Laura Womack. With me is executive producer Jen McHugh.
Happy evening, everyone.
Today, we're so glad to have Chee Bravo with us. Chee is a printmaker and a painter who was just awarded a top individual fellowship by the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. We're very proud of her. In her prints, Chee builds up layers of color to create energetic prints of musicians often. You can almost hear the music, and we'll take a close look at her exacting process. But the layers aren't just in Chee's printing process. Hers is a very personal body of work that stems from her life experiences. We'll take a look at Chee's paintings of the people she met on a trip to her husband's native Cuba, paintings filled with all the character, color, and the energy of her screen prints. Chee has works in the permanent collections of Trenton City Museum and the Brooklyn Art Library. She's a frequent exhibitor in the Phillips Mill Juried Show. She's a graphic designer, earned her BFA in printmaking at the Florida International University in Miami. She is originally from Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to Art Talk, Chee Bravo, and congratulations on your New Jersey State Fellowship.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me today.
And all of you in the audience, please join us with your questions in the Q&A where they're easy for us to find. Jen uses the chat for relevant links, but we'd really like to hear from you. And this is your opportunity to talk with Chee Bravo about her work and about printmaking. So Chee, we heard a little preview, but just briefly, this congratulations on this New Jersey fellowship. And I think that's quite an honor and very well deserved. What will you do with this fellowship? What does it mean?
It means a lot, actually, because it means I can take my art to the next level. I have a lot of ideas that I want to create eventually, but it requires funding. And this definitely gives me the opportunity to do that. In fact, what's behind me is a silk screen that fits on a 30 by 40 inch piece of paper, which is twice the size of the silk screens that I normally do to my right, the big one in the back. And I attempted to do this very large silk screen about 2 years ago, and it totally drove me crazy. I just couldn't finish it. So last year, it was last year, I contacted a print shop in Brooklyn, the Bushwick Lab print shop, and I had them help me silk screen a large size silk screen that I had created. And everything went really well, but still it cost me I think about $1,000 just to produce, for the use of their lab equipment, the film, everything cost me about $1,000. But with this grant that I just got, I have 2 silk screens that I had intended to create on a smaller scale, which I know now I can actually produce it the size I really wanted, because it's a pretty dynamic, a very energetic imagery that I created this last month, actually. And I can show you.
People necessarily know how expensive a silk screen can be, especially when you're doing a lot of colors and layers like you're doing.
Yeah, well, in fact, it was affordable a few years ago. In fact, I used to get my my film, which was actually printed paper from Staples, and that cost like $5 a sheet. So for example, Barcelona, which I created with 14 colors, needed 14 screens, 14 colors. So I had to get 14 sheets of paper printed for each color, and that cost me 14 by $5 is not that much, but could you imagine paying? So Staples now apparently changed the equipment, and somehow the paper doesn't give me the same results that I need. So I have to go and get output in film, which is like 5 times the cost of the paper now. So it's like $25 I pay for each each output instead of $5. So if when I go this big, it's like out of my range.
Good paper really
Right.
adds up. Well, let's take a look at some of your work, Chee. And I think Jenna's put together a slideshow for us, and I think we're going to start with some of your paintings, which we don't often get to see at Phillips Mill, because usually you enter your
silk screens.
Your silk screens, right? But so it's really a delight to see your paintings, and you can see the relationship. Tell us about the background on this piece, please.
Okay, the background is of two musicians I found in this New York subway, and this is actually my first painting I did after I have been silk screening for a while, and I wanted to still capture that same joie de vivre that I have throughout my work, and kind of wanted the same kind of look, right? So I actually create a digital collage with several images. This one may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 images. I have to double check because I did this a while back, 2017. But so I create my digital collage, and from there I decide whether or not I'm going to paint it or I'm going to silk screen it. And this particular one scream paint me. So this is the musician's theme is there. The performer is a mime that I found in the New York subway, and she was performing for me. So I got the shot I wanted, and it made me happy. That's I take a lot of photographs. I work with photographs that I take, when I'm traveling. And thank God for the iPhone. It's so portable, instead of carrying the big SLRs, right?
Yeah.
It's so easy to take quick shots, and you never know when you're gonna get the shot, right? Like the photographers say.
Yeah, exactly. So she's looking right at you, and yet you chose to put, her thumb. It's an interesting, there's tension because you've covered her face a little bit of it. What were you thinking about that? I'm just curious.
I just like it when they interact with me, and if they interact with me, I love using that particular shot because it's so personal. It draws me into my painting. It draws the viewer, hopefully, into the painting too. And it's just such a intimate connection, which I crave,
Yeah.
So, and actually at the background is the New York subway. There's the train stop, there's Manhattan. And usually on my subway pieces, I put in the New York subway map. So there's the map in the background,
Okay, let's take a look. This is part of a series that you've done both in acrylic and in print. Let's take a look at the next one, Jen, which I believe, this is mixed media. Okay, so tell us about this. Tell us about this gentleman, the crooner, again, looking right at you, interacting.
Yes, this is Sammy Davis Jr., and he plays at the Penn Station, which apparently is a really popular place because I think the tips are really good there. There's so much traffic, right? And from what I read, people like him could make a decent, could meet a month's rent check, from their tips. And he's a loner. He plays by himself. He sings, obviously, and he's a really small guy. He's almost my height, pretty much. But he's always dressed in his Sunday best. I mean, he's always dressed to the nine. And I decided, I've taken a few shots of him, and this one in particular, when I got this one, I said, I'm going to paint him. I'm going to paint this one too. And I think he needed to be in like a concert hall. So you can see the gold trim on the top. And then there around that time, there were these posters in the subway with these ladies, and they were promoting the, what you call it, the Broadway plays. I can't exactly remember which one it was. I think this one was beautiful. The lady on the right in the gold, in the singing, with the big mouth. I think that was for beautiful. The other one, I'm not quite sure which Broadway show it was being promoted. But then again, I put him in the subway scenario with the graffiti in the back, and I spray painted in the back. I did a bit of stenciling in the back, and it was during during President Trump's presidency, so there's a little bit of stuff hidden in the back there too.
Oh yeah, I see it. So
Yes.
you gave him really, I mean, you kept him in the subway, but you gave him his fantasy context. That's a really nice concept. So why the subway performers, Chee?
The subway performers, I have to say, when I was my first visit to New York, really had really made an impression on me. Coming from an island, living in Florida where there's no subways, I came to New York for the first time when I was 26 on the 26th day of May, my birthday. And I came up and I said, I'm gonna paint the town red with $100 in my pocket, right? And luckily I had friends, longtime friends, childhood friends I grew up with who lived in New York. And if it wasn't for them, I don't know what I would have done, right? Because they put me up, they took me out, and we had such a good time. And the subways were like, holy crap, I've never experienced anything like that. And nobody has unless you're a New Yorker, right? So even if you lived in the United States, you go to New York and it's like, wow, most of the people there on Times Square are tourists, right? And they're getting the full experience. And I thought this subway thing I had taken the subway, I was by myself. It was like 4 levels deep. And I didn't know where I was going. I was just going with the herd, wherever the herd was going, I was just being pushed along with them, you had to, because it was so fast paced, right? And you have to know where you're going, otherwise, I don't know what will happen to you. But I just ended up somewhere out in the street. I had no idea where I was, but I was just moved with this herd, and that stuck with me for many years. And then like almost 2 decades later, I come up with my husband Juan and my son, because he got a job up here. And I was so excited. I'm like, I'm only a train ride away from New York now, And so I would go into New York, and then I hadn't seen the subway performers until we moved out, because I guess it wasn't around back then. But you hear the music and it's like, it's so exhilarating, right? And you're just drawn to the music, like fly stir, a delight. So seeing that and experiencing that, I was like, this is awesome, right? So I first started doing pieces on with Grand Central, because Grand Central is mind-blowing too. And then coming into New York, taking pictures, taking it home, figuring out what I want to do with them, if anything, then I started putting it together, and that's how everything started. So, and obviously musicians, I'm not a connoisseur or anything like that. I listen to whatever Juan listens to, right? So that's something less to think about, right? And less to do. So whatever he listens to, that's what I listen to. And I tell him what I like,
But they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Yeah. Let's take a look. I think, Jen, the next image we have is one of the screen prints that was done in New York in the same series. And it's so classic. So for anyone who's not familiar with Chee, I'm not sure that that you're out there, but somebody who's not familiar with Chee's print work, which we do see a lot, we're glad to have in the Phillips Mill show. You can see how related these are to your painting. So it's really a vision that you have, Chee. Tell us about Barcelona. Is this in Barcelona or is this in
Yes,
Okay.
this one is in Barcelona. So I started with the New York subway performers, and then we traveled to Paris, and I knew they had a subway there, so I told Juan, I said, we got to go to the subway. And he's like, no, let's just take Lyft or Uber. And I'm like, no, we got to go. So he's like, why do you want to go? I'm like, yeah, they may have performers like New York. He's like, no, this is not New York. But I said, let's take the subway anyways, just this one time, just, humor me. Okay, so we went down, and yes, we found performers, right? These are all single performers, solo performers though. So this guy was, I think he was originally like from Ghana, Africa, and he was really cool. And then there was this other guy who they looked like they're college students, and they were playing at different parts of the subway. So I took pictures of them, and obviously I tipped them too, right? I always carry like 5s and 10s and singles, to give out, just so that, I'm not doing it. I don't feel bad, too bad,
Sure.
right? So they were in different areas, and then I put them all together. And when I'm doing these, I try to put myself back into the environment to hopefully to create the experience that I had when I was there. So this is the one that's I've done to date with the most colors. This one has 14 colors in it, or 14 screens. And this one is also in the Trenton City Museum. This was purchased in 2019 as a purchase award.
Yeah, it's great. So I'm fascinated by the fact that you're putting so many things together and you're really creating an environment that doesn't necessarily actually exist, because you're
Right.
bringing all these different musicians and putting them maybe in my mind, a band. I
Right.
think the pattern on that guy's shirt you put in there, and then you in your backgrounds have this context for the musicians. So it's a lot of work, Chee. Why go to all that work?
Because because I like doing things that's unique. I tend not to take the easy route out, and I want to be inspired by it when I look at it. And I know if I'm happy with it or I'm inspired by it, whoever buys my work or whoever looks at my work will be inspired by it too. So it's such a good and a satisfaction that you get as an artist when you know you've done what you need to do with a piece, and it turned out better than what you had anticipated, or exactly how you had envisioned it. So it's very satisfying. Like I tell people, I've never done drugs. This is my drug. This is what I get high on. Right? I don't need anything. I really don't. Just producing the stuff and seeing what comes out just takes me to another level. Let's put it like that.
Well, let's take a look at the process, because I think it's impressive. I know, as I told you, Chee, just a tiny bit about printmaking, and I'm just amazed by the effort that you do go through to get these wonderful images. So I think you sent Jen a breakdown of putting the
PowerPoint. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to go through some of those.
Okay.
With Jen's help. Yeah, thank you. So here we are. This is sort of some background on it, that it's an 18 by 26. You did it in 2018, and it's in the Trenton City Museum collection. There we go. Okay, the first stage. So the digital collage, you're working on your computer, and these are some of the images so very different that you started with, Chee.
Yes. Yes. And usually I'm not sure where I'm going to be, where I'm going with them, but I know I'm going to use them somehow and it's going to work. So here are the three guys in different locations, down in the Barcelona subway. And then because I take so many photographs, then I go through all my photographs and see what images I can use, you know? So it usually starts, no, just with looking at it and seeing if I can use it. And then even though I use all these images with the 11 photos and the one pattern, I've been through many more photos already and I've disqualified them because they don't work, you know? So my Photoshop, let's say collages, pretty massive. In fact,
Yeah. And I'm
right.
just a little amazed, Chee, because to my eye, not being an artist, I look at the three photos on the left and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Those guys are great. The guy in the middle has such a terrific personality,
Right.
but I would never come to where you are. So it's really your unique vision.
Yeah,
And
so normally I don't see the end result until it starts to come together,
yeah,
you know. But the main thing is the main focus, which is usually a person that I hone in on,
yeah.
and then I build around him or her.
Okay, and here you are. Tell us a little bit about what's going on here.
Okay, so this is before, this is at the Frontline Arts where I have my membership. In fact, I have to renew my membership. And because I only print half the year, usually in the spring, summer, and a little bit in the fall, and then at winter into spring again, I normally paint, at home because it's too cold to be out there. So here I am. I have to register my paper first before I actually start printing, of course. And then with the screens now, the image is already burnt on the screens. So that takes a few, maybe an hour or so or two, preparing the screens to receive the imagery through the camera, right? So I get the film output, then I put it in the dark room under my screen and burn it into it. So the pink stuff is the opaque stuff, so that is not gonna receive any ink. The lighter places are the places where the inks pass through. And then I have all my inks, my squeegees that I'm gonna use, all my cleaning. Half this process is cleaning, right?
Right,
So
right.
you have to not but don't mind cleaning up, right?
Right.
Because that's half the job, cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. I mean, it's like, so
Yeah.
when I come home, I really don't want to clean the house. I'm
Fair
already
enough.
done. I'm cleaned up.
You do one of these screens for each color layer
Yes.
in your screen prints, yeah. And that order that you do it in is important too, as we discussed. You can cover over things with the opacity of the ink. So it's really a
Yes.
very precision process.
Yes. So I have to figure out when I'm outputting the film to the output print shop, I have to, in my mind, I have to layer it. So you can see those are the, on the top there, the top left is the output in film. So that came out of my computer at the, this one was done at the shop in Brooklyn. So they would print me the screen, the output film that big. And then the prepared screen is in the back. It's the all pink screen. The camera is in the background. So both of those pieces go into the camera. You turn the lights on, you time it, everything, and that image is burned into the screen. And then you take it to the wash down with water. You wash it down in water, and then the actual image comes out. Then it dries. You put it in the drying rack.
And here
And
you're
then,
drawing 10 screens, yeah.
yes. So I don't have 14 screens. I only have 5 screens. So I have to figure out which ones I'm going to print. That's why the layering is also important, because I need to know which plate I'm going to be burning. which
Do you think
film
you're
I'm
going
going
to
to be
buy
putting
some
up.
more screens with this grant money?
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
no. I manage pretty well with just my 5 screens,
Well
you
done.
know. Yeah.
Before
So
we go forward, Chi, we've got a question in the Q&A for you. I always like to
okay.
get to those so we honor people who ask questions. Jen, what have we got?
Luann wants to know, do you engage with and or get permissions from your subjects? I can't imagine that these musicians wouldn't be thrilled with the way they are represented.
Oh, they love being on social media. They love getting word out. They love being people, unless they tell you, listen, I don't want to be photographed, you don't photograph them. I asked for permission and they say yes. I give them, a decent tip. And usually if I take their phone numbers and their names, this is something as art, I think the rules are a little bit different when it comes to art, right? Versus the normal, things. But the thing about it is that they want people to promote them. They want people to promote them. They want to be on social media. They want to be, out there, right?
Yeah.
And they don't mind. They really don't mind.
Okay,
So,
that's good. Yeah, and I think that the culture around that has changed a lot in the last couple of years as well. So that's good. Okay, well,
no,
let's.
I've had musicians tell me no photographs, and you respect that,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but usually I would ask first. I said, "Can I take a picture?" Kind of thing, and they like, and that's why I get these frontal, you know, images. They actually perform for me when I ask them, So that's where I get the images that I use, right?
And
And
people would
usually
love
if I know the person, since I do silk screens, whenever I do small ones, I do enough where I give the artist an original silk screen, which I sell for over $200 a pop, so that's kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
and they love it. They love it. They're like, in fact, I'm doing the one with candlelight, another one, and they're like, I'm not in it. I'm not in it. Where am I? I'm like, maybe the next one.
Right.
So it's like, okay, now I have like people asking me to be in my silk screens. It's like crazy, but
That's pretty cool.
so it's all good. Everybody as an artist, what artists go through. You want to help promote each other, right? So
Yeah.
that's what we try to do. It's
Okay, good. Well, let's go back to the slideshow, and I think we're on stage 3. There we go. Okay, so what's happening here, Chi?
okay. I'm putting up my background, which is the subway map of Barcelona, and there's I do a Cmyk, which is like what the commercial printers do in order to get the whole rainbow of colors. You use the magenta, you use a yellow, you use a black, and you use cyan, which is a blue, to actually get every single color that's out there. So this
So
thing is like the actual map is over the black version of each plate. So actually the yellow plate, it's all black. It doesn't have any of that color that I layered it with. The magenta plate is black, but when I print, I'm going to use magenta ink. So the actual area is what I used to separate into those 4 colors.
So are you printing on the paper? You're printing on the paper with a CMYK process
Yes.
through a printer, and then you do the silk screen on top? Am I
No,
getting that?
no,
No. Okay.
no. This is also going to be output as a piece of film also,
Okay.
right? So this is the initial process of getting that background in, but each color has to be output in black, because it's when you black, well, it doesn't show up but when you actually burn it onto the screen.
Right.
So I'm gonna send this file with these black plates to my output, to the print shop.
Cool.
And when what I get back from them would be the actual film for each
I
color.
get it. Okay,
Right.
very good. And we had a question about that from Jim, and he says you answered his question, so that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
A lot of going on in your images, Chee, and so a lot of process. All right, here we go. Next slide.
Yeah, these are the other plates. So the first 4 plates was Cmyk. This is plate number 5, plate number 6, and plate number 7. So that's a blue plate. That's the orange and yellow plate. And that's what I do too. If the colors don't touch, in order to save money, I put 2 or 3 colors on the same piece of film. So when I print the yellow, I would block the orange area out so I don't get yellow going through where it should be orange. Then I wash the screen, and then I would cover the yellow part and pull orange through. So sometimes I can make it the actual screen for a little less money if I think, about how to set it up. So I can make one less piece of film.
Right. So on one screen, or one film rather, just repeating to make sure I understand. And if anybody else is having trouble following, please write in, because chances are somebody else is having trouble too. But so
Yes.
you have printed on your film, you've got different parts of the ultimate silk screen that you're composing, but they're the different colors that you're going to pull through on
Yes.
the screen, so that when you expose it all on the screen, but then you'll block out with tape or something like
Yeah,
that,
with Scotch tape.
with Scotch tape, the color that you're not printing at that moment.
Right.
So I think that makes your registration process kind of challenging as well too for the screen. Am I wrong?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, well, I have registration marks on all my plates, on all, so that gets burned in, and it helps a lot. But because of printing so many colors sometimes, and the size of the paper and humidity and everything, it kind of, gets a little out of registration sometimes. But if it's a little bit, it doesn't matter, because it's my imagery are a little chaotic anyways, so as long as there's not a lot of vibration, I'm happy with it. It's fine.
I'm interested that the weather's an issue too. Okay, let's see the next screen. Or the next, sorry, I'm speaking in the wrong time. Next slide. There we go. All right. Tell us what's happening here, Chee.
Okay, so like the previous ones, I printed the white and gold plates on this one screen, right? And the reason why I wanted white was to knock out so I can put another color on. Right. And I'm not sure. I don't think it was a mistake. It was maybe an afterthought that I thought that I wanted that this is actually the gold, the guitars.
Yeah.
But up in the lettering, I wanted to knock it out because I wanted it white. And I'm not sure if I wanted it. Yeah, there was a yellow going on there, and I wanted it white. So that was like a little afterthought that I came up with. And then I have the silver and bronze plates on the top right, because I decided I was gonna make the I think it was the guy's shirt silver and his cap bronze. And since they don't touch, I can do that by just, screening the color over that area, over those areas. And then a second afterthought I had was to find a pattern for his shirt. So I stopped, I came back to the computer, found the pattern I wanted, and created this extra plate, which I could have actually, because it's a bronze plate, I could have put it instead of the silver plate, I could have put it in that one and just have just a totally bronze plate. So I had to go back to the press and print the pattern separately because of the afterthought.
So much going on. So I can imagine that that happens. So before we go on and talk about this next slide, Jen, we've got some questions in the Q&A. What have we got?
Yes, David wants to know how many copies do you print in each run?
Oh, it's called an edition. It's not called a copy, because copy sounds as though it's been, copied on a copier. And
Okay.
it's an edition because obviously I hand pull it through and it's original, right? So we kind of, printmakers don't like to call it copies, because
Thank
it
you for
kind of,
that clarification, Chi. I'm
right.
sure David and I and Jen will all get it right next time.
Okay. Yeah, so normally I do the 18 by 20 something. I normally do between 10 to 12. So it's a small run.
Yeah, that's good. And
Yeah.
then I think we've got another question.
Yes, Pamela wants to know what got you into this type of art and what is the favorite part? What is your favorite part of your work?
What got me into this? I'm a printmaker. That's what I have my degree in. I started. I have a degree in lithography, so I got to work in all the different types of printmaking, except silk screening, because where I went to school, they didn't have a silk screening lab. So I did everything else but silk screening. So I graduated with my BFA in lithography, which is a type of reproduction process to where the back in the days, that's how they used to print flyers and things like that through lithography, right? And then silk screening came in, and that way of mass producing things or information, silk screening took over that process. So I've always been in printmaking, and my graphic design, I'm a graphic designer, so I've done that for quite a long time too. Moving up to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, I decided I was gonna quit my job, come up here and just be a full-time artist. So I shopped around for a print shop and I found Frontline Arts, previously known as uh, Printmaking Council of New Jersey. And that's where I've been for the
Not,
past since 2012 or 2013.
you're
You know,
obviously interested in detail, and you don't mind the detail is in addition to the cleaning up, because it's a very exacting process. Jen, let's go back to our next slide. And while she's pulling that up, I'll ask for her. Jim says, are the gold, silver, and bronze colors over the CMYK? Are they all Pantone colors?
no, they're Pantone colors. I have to knock them out when I create my CMYK. So like in the CMYK slide, you'd see like white areas, right? Those are knocked out. So I get solid metallic colors, or solid yellows or solid blues or whatever I want,
Okay.
based on my vision.
Right. So here we are in the 14th color. Yikes.
Yeah. And the 14 color is always the black color, the black plate. And that normally brings everything together. So all my little errors and little things normally gets covered up, which I can't even tell, at the end, if it was if it was going south. That's why I keep all my my silk screens until I put my black on. And once I put my black on, then I can tell whether or not it's part of the edition on, or it's just not going anywhere. So the black usually saves me.
It all comes together. It looks really good.
Yes.
All right. Do we have more in this series, Jen? Oh, here we go.
But that's
That's
the beginning. Yeah.
the beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jen, I think we've got another question in the Q&A. And then there's a painting we missed, but I want to go back and pick that up. One of my favorites.
Yes, I am probably going to butcher this name, and I really apologize ahead of time. Srinath asked, why do you choose gold, silver, bronze kind of metal colors, as your subjects you portray are mostly poverty?
Poverty. Why would you say poverty? I just like the fact that it brings your attention to the instrument. So when I use those colors, I use it just on the instruments. I don't use it anywhere else. You know, so I highlight the instruments. That's just a choice, you know.
You're calling attention for the attention effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so if you notice, all my pieces, the instruments tend to be the solid metallics.
Right. All right, Jen, let's take a look at, we've got a lot to cover still, but I definitely want to see Havana La Cantora, which I will confess is one of my favorite of your works, Chee. I just love this. We talked about it a little bit before. I love everything about this. First of all, just the realism in her face. This painting to me almost looks like a collage. I think it's just an extraordinary achievement. Tell us a little bit about the musicians, particularly this lady, the context of what we're looking at.
Yes, talk about poverty. You got to go to Cuba. You know, it's seems, you know, when you think about it and you think of the oppression and everything under that regime, you think, yeah, it's like those people are poor, and they are. But you know what? You go there and it's weird because the government supposedly gives them all their basic needs, right? And even though they can't get out of a certain level of poverty, right? Somehow, for example, these musicians and the artists there, that's what they focus on. And to me, as an artist going there, I saw that they have taken their art, their craft to such a level. It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, there's poverty everywhere, right? But these people take what little they have and they make so much out of it, you know, and it's mind blowing. I mean, you know, I wish I could do that, just focus on my art, you know, but obviously I don't want to live in Cuba because I don't want to be oppressed, right? So there's choices. Okay, so I have to live here. I have to do a job on the side to make money so I can buy my materials and stuff like that, right? And we went to Cuba, and the art has just exploded. I mean, it's like amazing, you know, for an artist or anybody. Even if you're not an artist, it's in your face. You know, there's music everywhere. The people are performing. They're doing what they can, you know, to make a little bit of more money or whatever on their own. Very entrepreneurial, right? But you can see from capturing these photos that I took, the joy practicing their art. You know what I mean? And I hope that comes through.
Yeah, it
Because
absolutely does. So Chee, that you've got this is fascinating to me because it almost looks like a collage. You've got this photorealism in her face, which is amazing painting. You've got the fellow with the guitar on the viewer's left,
right.
who really in a way looks like a silk screen. This is mixed media. What's actually happening here?
Yes, in my paintings, what I do a little bit of realism, a little bit of graphic element, a little graphic twist, and also a little bit of impressionist. So there are like 3 layers going on here. And obviously I do the realistic type painting. It's not hyper realism or anything like that, but it's realistic in the sense that I want to capture a certain look or a certain vibe, right? And then in the background, because I want her to stand out, I have a little bit of impressionist, a little bit of graphic touch to the whole, to the painting.
Right.
So it's just something I was experimenting with too, and I like it. I like the results.
I
So I
like it
think I'm
too.
gonna keep doing it.
No, I think it's great. Is it all acrylic or are there other things happening here?
No, this one is mixed media. There's oil, there's oil pastel, there's what she's holding in her hand is a piece of newsprint from Cuba. And what else is going on there? And her dress is actually a scratch board. So in the back of it, there's like oil pastels in it. I put oil pastels down, so the entire dress is covered in just a rainbow of colors, the oil pastels. And on top of it, I put this layer of white oil, and then I scratched out the design. And these designs are based on the religion that has totally exploded there. It's called Santeria, which is like in my island, from Trinidad, we call it voodoo, right? And in other places, it's called, other names, but it's the African-based religion that came to the islands, that the slaves brought to the islands, and then it got merged into Christianity and all these other, religions. So in Cuba, because they've been, I guess, out of the mainstream for so long, that Santeria has become the prominent religion, even though there's a lot of Catholics there, right? And they've mixed the religion. So they pray to these saints that are Catholic saints, but yet there are many iconology associated with these things. I don't quite understand it, but I've read a little bit about it, and coming from the islands, I know a little bit more about it. So
And
it was interesting.
yeah, you looked up the
The
iconography,
symbols, yeah.
yeah, and put them all in this dress, which as a textile enthusiast, I think it's an extraordinary textile. And again, it shows a lot of composition and balance. Can we just take one more quick look at that, Jen, just now that we've heard the explanation? Just to see that dress again, I think is so amazing. And if you can blow it up, the proportion on your screen, it's really worthwhile. That's amazing.
Yeah, all the symbols too, I researched it, and I believe I chose the symbols that represent goodness, because
Yeah.
I didn't want any kind of like bad juju in my house or on me. So I kind of went in there and I try to choose the symbols that reflect goodness and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it was.
It's great. Jen says we have another image from Cuba that's a silk screen. There we go. Yeah, this is another great one. And
Yes.
the background on this is so different, Chee. I think there's something else, something different is happening here. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's kind of like I'm doing less layering, you know, because I think my subjects, I want to give them room to breathe. And I've had that thought recently, that my work has been changing visually, it's getting, and I don't know why. It's just going in that direction right now. And I think also because there is less, like for example, in the subway pieces, there's so much structure in terms of architecture going on that I can use, and
Right.
layer it. But in these pieces where these performers are like not in the subway, it's kind of harder to find imagery that I can layer like that, and get the same effect.
How did you create this background? Because I'm assuming it's not a silk screen.
It is a silk screen.
It is. That's
Yes.
wow. That's a really complicated silk screen background,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's
Or am I wrong?
yeah, it's that's the background. There's also Cmyk. So that's the Cmyk background for this particular piece, you know.
That's-
And that's made up of like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 images in the background
yeah,
of performers I found throughout Havana while I was there.
that's just amazing. We do have some questions from the audience. Jen, can you give us a hand with those, please?
Sure. First, Pamela asked, what and who inspires you to do this beautiful additions?
It it's not, I'm not too sure where that comes from, you know, but actually after doing a few pieces and liking the results, you kind of go in that direction, right? And in terms of inspires me, is the person asking about outside influences in terms of artists or just, you know, imagery that I happen to see? Or
Let's hear about that, Chee, while if the original questioner, I think that was Pamela, if she wants to write in and clarify, who are your influences? That's a great question.
okay, who are my influences? Well, obviously Andy Warhol, right? He's like, you know, Mr. Pop artist, you know, so screen, you know, commercial. He came from a commercial background too. And having read up on him lately, you know, after I started to do this, I realized as a graphic designer, it's a natural, you know, path to follow, right? And speaking to other designers too, having that background, you that's kind of like uh, that's where the water flows, you know, so you follow it. And I've always wanted to, and I mean, I've never thought back in the days, you know, when you were taught at art school that you have to reproduce something exactly the way you see it and interpret things, you know, more in terms of realism and stuff. I didn't think he was such a big deal until I actually saw dove into his work, saw the museum up in is it um Philadelphia? No, it's not Philadelphia. It's up yeah,
It's up in, yeah, it's in Pennsylvania, but I
yeah,
think it's over by Pittsburgh, but I could be wrong.
Pittsburgh, that's it, right? Went to the museum there, saw some other shows. Actually, there in Manor Contemporary, there's a collector that has these Andy Warhol pieces that has never been seen anywhere by anybody by any museum, and it was mind blowing, you know. And the things that he did with the with the um with the medium is like crazy. It's like, you know, as a printmaker, you go and you try and recreate the process in your head, or you talk about it and you realize this is genius stuff, you know, because, you know, you try to pull it apart and recreate it, and it's like, how did he do that, you know, right?
Gee,
How did he get that?
I'm gonna make an effort to try to get there the next time I'm in that area, because
Yeah,
I'd like to see what you're talking about.
yeah, but
Jen,
also
yeah,
surprisingly, I really admire other artists who don't do anything like what I do, but just their vision is so like amazing, you know, thinking out of the box, doing stuff that's, you know, that's not um let's say normal, you
yeah.
know. So like I told you guys, I went to see James Turrell's latest installation, right, up in at Mass Mocha, and it was great. I mean, he's so
The light work, yeah,
the light works, you
yeah,
know, so it's fascinating.
yeah.
You know, I'm also interested in installation and mixed media. So I love Yoko Ono's work when she had her retrospective at the museum in New York, I think in 2013, right? And I mean, it's incredible. She was way before her time. I also have went to school with Tarasita Fernandez, who is a MacArthur Fellow, and she does minimalist work too. I mean, and her work is like outstanding, right? You have to. She had a piece in the Philadelphia Museum, and it was the map of the United States that was all the states were charred pieces of, I think, wood, and it was on this massive wall, you know, and
Very
it just said so much. I mean, so simple. So looking at my work, it's so intricate and so busy, and then I admired the artists that are like so simple, you know, and it
different things in different people's work. Yeah.
right, you know, it's like, you know, the message is so clear,
Yeah.
right, with just a few things, right? So hopefully I may get there one day, who knows, you know, but I definitely love the artists that have done, you know, a lot with so little. I really
We had a
admire.
request for your ode to Oscar Hammerstein, and given the local connection, we just wanted to bring that up. Quick thoughts about that, because we've got one more question in the Q&A, and we're technically about out of time, but I want to
Oh
try
boy.
to squeeze the
Okay.
last bits in. Real quick about ode to Oscar.
Okay, this one was done to in 2019. I was part of a artist group that I was invited as one of the artists to present a piece um, to raise funds towards the Oscar Hammerstein Museum in Doylestown, the building of it. So they were raising funds for it, and they invited a few of us, a few artists, or a lot of the local artists, to create a piece, you know, featuring Oscar or be related to him. And this one I came up and I said, I did some research, and I was surprised because I thought maybe Andy Warhol would have done something with him, right? So I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to do something, you know, with a Lichtenstein, Andy Warhol kind of like take. And I spoke to the grandson of Oscar Hammerstein, Will Hammerstein, because he's a good friend of ours. He's married to my really good friend, Mandy. And I said, what do you think was Oscar's let's say signature pieces, you know, right? And he came gave me all these things, and I had to go research it because I knew the familiar ones, you know,
Right.
a few, but all these like Showboat and Rosie, and the last time I saw Paris, and you know, Flower Drum Song, and these things I have never heard of it, you know. So I had to go research it, and I got all these little bits and pieces from old posters, and I came put it together. And I obviously it's obviously an Andy Warhol take, because there's three Oscars there and the illustrated scene in the background with the polka dots, you know. So
Great.
it's a tribute to Oscar, Andy, and the illustrated scene.
Right. That's great. And then I want to squeeze in this last question. It's anonymous. Jen, can you get that for us, please?
Sure. Is there other subject matter besides performers and people you've explored with your art or might like to explore in the future?
Um, let's see. I've done a few portraits of family members, of people I know, friends. Um, I like I like painting interesting faces, you know, and interesting I call interesting. Like I've done portraits of my sister-in-law who lives in an assisted living facility. I've done some portraits of her friends who live with her, and it's just, you know, I love people. So I don't think I'm going to stop painting or, you know, creating art without people, because they're interesting, right? I mean, I love landscape and stuff, but I may put it in my paintings, I might put it in my art, my silk screens, but I have to have a person, you know, a focus, some kind of focus, and for me. So, but I've done during the pandemic, I did a piece on the mannequins in New Hope, Love Saves the Day, because I couldn't go out and shoot people. I mean, well, photograph people. So I went and I did a piece on the mannequins. And then I've done a piece on the grounds of sculptures. I love their lotus pond, and that's actually one of the few landscapes that I've ever done as a silk screen. So I did that last year because I'm not quite sure why I did it. I just had to do this lotus that I saw, right? And I had this vision of how I wanted to present it. And in fact, let me see, do I have it here? Oh.
All right.
Yeah, this is it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. Very different, Chee.
Yes.
I look forward to that. And I look forward, come back on screen, Chee, if you would, please.
Yes.
I really look forward to seeing what you do with your fellowship from the State Council on the Arts. Congratulations on that, Chee.
Okay. And before we go, I got to put my hat on, right?
Oh, I love it. People should check out your Instagram because you have the best hats. I believe you do these for Halloween. I love your hats. Thanks for that.
Yes, we do. No, we do this every New Year's Eve. And I think some of my friends know because they've made hats with me. So
they're lucky. That's
the next-
wonderful. Chee, thank you for sharing your work, your process, and your inspiration, and just the humanity that comes through your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, audience, for joining us. We always appreciate your participation. We appreciate all your questions tonight. We're excited on our next program to welcome Janine Dunn-Wade, who's best known for her expressive flower paintings. Her lines are free and confident. They look effortless. And Janine will share all the work and thought that goes on behind those delightful works. That's on March 13th. Our executive producer is Jen McHugh. Thank you, Jen. Gene Mahich produced this show. Thank you, Gene. And Dennis Riley is a content producer. He's got some great things in the works for us. Thank you all very much. Good evening. I'm Laura Womack.
Take care.